Something about blending psychology and neuroscience with Islamic thought really intrigued you, huh?
It's not every day you see those worlds collide.
Totally. And I get it. Sometimes those self-help books can be a bit much, like
Yeah.
just give me the good stuff. That's what this deep dive is all about. We're cutting through it all to find those golden nuggets of wisdom, the stuff you can actually use.
Exactly. It's about finding that practical wisdom. And what I found fascinating was how this book uses both scientific research and spiritual reflection. Like, it's offering a real roadmap.
Love that a roadmap. And it all starts with this really powerful quote. He who knows himself is truly happy. That's Imam al-Ghazali. And it gets at this Islamic concept of ilm al-nafs, basically, the science of the soul.
And it's not just an Islamic idea, really. It's universal. This idea that lasting happiness, it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about truly understanding who you are, what your purpose is. And that's a big part of what this book explores, the 5 purposes of human creation within the Islamic tradition.
5 purposes. Wow. It's like having a compass.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you direction, helps you figure out where you fit in.
Can you give us a little taste of that? Like, how do those purposes connect to happiness?
Okay, so one of the 5 purposes is knowing and remembering God. And this isn't just about, like, blind faith. It's about cultivating a connection with something bigger than yourself.
I feel like everyone has those moments, right, where you're just in awe of something much greater.
Yes. And studies actually show is that feeling, that sense of awe, it can be really powerful. It can lower stress, increase feelings of belonging, all these things that contribute to happiness.
It's like when you look up at the stars, that feeling of wonder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tapping into that. So we've got self-awareness, connection to something bigger, but what about the everyday things? Because life isn't always, awe-inspiring stargazing.
Right. Sometimes you need a little boost. Like, what can we actually do to amp up our happiness?
This is where the book gets really interesting. It dives into the work of Sonja Lyubomirsky. She's a researcher who's dedicated her whole career to studying happiness.
And I'm hoping she's got some good news for us.
Oh, she does. Because her research actually gives us a big reason to be optimistic. Imagine happiness as a pie chart. Part of it is genetics, part is your circumstances, but get this, a whopping 40% is within your control.
Wait, 40%? So almost half of our happiness is up to us. That's huge. What do we do with all that control?
That's where intentional activities come in. Things you can actually choose to do to boost your happiness.
Yeah.
We're not just along for the ride, we're creating it.
Okay, stop right there. Don't leave us hanging. What are these intentional activities?
It's about those small everyday things, really. Like gratitude, and I don't just mean a quick thanks. I'm talking really savoring a good experience or writing a heartfelt letter to someone you appreciate.
Oh, I love that.
It could be about really nurturing your relationships or even doing something kind for someone else. It's amazing how much those things can impact how we feel.
Makes sense. So it's like we're really taking an active role in our own happiness, choosing things that lift us up.
Exactly. And speaking of choosing experiences, this is where that whole idea of flow comes in, right? The book talks about that. It's something I think we can all relate to.
Flow. It's like when you get so into something, you lose track of time. Like you're just completely in the zone.
Exactly. Lasting happiness and success does a really nice job of explaining that, like how anyone can experience flow. You don't have to be some kind of superstar athlete or artist or anything.
I feel like we've all had those moments, whether it's a work project you're totally absorbed in, or playing music, or even just cooking something and you're just totally present.
Absolutely. And there's actual science behind it. Mihaly, he's a big name in positive psychology. He talks about flow as this state of like optimal experience, where your skills and the challenge you're facing, they're perfectly matched.
Oh, wow. I like that, a state of optimal experience. So it's about being in that sweet spot where you're challenged but not overwhelmed.
Exactly. You're fully engaged, you're energized, and honestly, you're probably enjoying yourself too. But, the book goes even further. It talks about how we can literally train our brains for success. It's like going to the gym, but for your mind.
Okay, now that sounds interesting. What's the secret?
Well, it all comes down to this concept of neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Your brain's actually able to change and adapt throughout your whole life. And they actually use a really cool example in the book, London taxi drivers.
Really? London cabbies. What's so special about them?
Well, think about it. They have to memorize this unbelievably complex map of London. I mean, thousands of streets, landmarks, all without using GPS. And researchers found that all that mental exercise, it actually changes their brain structure.
You're kidding. Their brains are literally different.
Yeah. Studies have actually shown they have a larger hippocampus. That's the area of the brain that's responsible for spatial memory, for navigating. And get this, the longer they've been driving, the more pronounced it is. So all that mental effort, it's like they're building up their brain muscles.
That's incredible. So it's not just, a figure of speech. We really can train our brains like we train our bodies.
Exactly. And that ties into this whole idea of deliberate practice that the book talks about. It's something Dr. Abdullah Rothman really champions in lasting happiness and success.
Yeah.
It's not just about practice making perfect. It's about how you practice. You've really got to be intentional about it.
Okay, so what makes deliberate practice so different? Deliberate practice, huh? It does sound kind of intense, to be honest. Like, how's it different from just, regular old practice?
Well, think of it like levels. The book
Yeah.
really breaks it down like this. You've got naive practice that's basically just going through the motions, not really thinking about it too much.
Okay, I've definitely been guilty of that.
Then you've got purposeful practice. You're setting goals, you're focused, you're trying to get better. But deliberate practice, that's like the next level. It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone.
So you're not just trying to be good, you're trying to be great.
Exactly. Seeking out those challenges, asking for feedback, even when it's tough to hear, constantly trying to improve.
It makes you think about those London cabbies, right? It wasn't just about driving around. They were really challenging themselves, memorizing every nook and cranny.
Exactly. And the best part is, this whole idea of deliberate practice, it applies to anything you want to get better at. Learning a language, playing an instrument, even just becoming a better communicator. It's all about how intentionally you approach that practice.
So it's not about the hours you put in, it's about how you use those hours.
Right. Quality over quantity. And I love how lasting happiness and success really emphasizes this idea that it's not about being perfect. It's about that journey of always learning, always growing.
Wow, this deep dive has been amazing. We talked about the importance of knowing yourself, that whole ilm al nafs thing, the fact that we actually have a lot of control over our own happiness. And we talk about flow and even how to train our brains for success.
And what's so cool is that it all comes back to this idea that happiness, it's not something you wait around for. It's something you actively cultivate.
It's a journey, not a destination, right? And we've got all these tools now, these actionable things we can actually do to build happier, more successful lives.
Exactly. And as you continue on your journey, remember, you've got the power to shape your own happiness. It's all about those small, intentional choices you make every day. So here's a little something to think about. What's one intentional activity you can focus on this week? And what's one skill you can practice with that deliberate practice mindset? Remember, even small steps can make a big difference.
Love that. So until next time, keep those good vibes flowing and remember, you've got this.